This is what you have to know when it comes to Kenya and how we have positioned ourselves as a regional leader in artificial intelligence and digital innovation. Another thing that you have to know is that we now have an AI strategy that is running up to 2030 and a strong backing from global institutions such as UNESCO, the World Bank, and other UN agencies. Now, you gotta know that our communication in this country is mostly centered around disaster early warning systems to media, advocacy, and development programming. Technology is increasingly then shaping the way our stories as Kenyans and as Africans in general are told in this country. Now you gotta also understand that the stories that we tell as a country are how resources are allocated and how citizens engage with power. Yet alongside this momentum, there are questions about inequality, ethics, trust, and whether communication has kept pace with innovation or left communities behind. That's exactly what you have to know, that in this country, if you're going to communicate about what the government is doing, how politics is shaping the economic landscape of this country, how the education system is faring on, you've got to factor that your communication is either going to manage some disaster, talk about development, or advocate for some things that you want to be done in this country. But at the center of that is the general understanding that AI, that is artificial intelligence, is now widely used for our communication purposes. Knowing very well that we have positioned this country as the leading hub for technology in Eastern Central Africa, how are we supposed, number one, to leverage on this artificial intelligence to communicate properly so that we can get development projects in this country? How can we communicate about our disasters as a country and as a continent so that we can draw the attention of well-wishers and donors? And indeed, have we failed to recognize that we have to tell unique stories about our country, about our continent, so that we stand out in an era where telling stories and communication is the only thing that gets you to stand from the crowd? That's what we talk about this morning. We're talking about advocacy communication and how telling true African stories in the wake of artificial intelligence is the only thing that can help this country gain the donor funds, development, and communicate what it's doing in the economy properly. This morning, we talked to a communication and advocacy expert who's going to tell us exactly what we need to do as a country so that we can tell the true Kenyan stories. Online and Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. It's a good day to start a new week. Is it a new week? It's Tuesday. Oh, it's Tuesday, so a new day in this new week. And I can see already the sun is up. We do expect that some rains will come or be with us towards the end of this week. We'll be looking at that before we step out of the studio today. Talk to us. Our WhatsApp lines are right there on your screen. Let's keep on communicating. Let's keep on engaging. We'll be with you for the next couple of hours right here on The Morning Drift. Now, so much that is also happening in the political landscape. ODM is speaking, UDA is speaking, DCP is speaking as well. We shall be getting into politics conversations before the end of this week. But for now, let me just take you directly to what it is that you're waking up to this morning in your dailies. And as usual, we're going to jump directly into the Daily Nation so we can see what the headlines on this particular newspaper. It's a thing that we've been, and we're going to look at it as well. I mean, even before we jump into this, I mean, I will apologize this morning, but this is one of the most useless proceedings that we get to see on television every other day as journalists and as a country. Even before we get to see exactly what the headline is talking about, how many governors have been put on the spot by the Senate Accounts Committee for corruption. I mean, if you go back 3 weeks, there are governors who've not paid pending bills, and they're spending $5 million in throwing parties within the county. There are governors who've not paid bills, and they can't explain how they have awarded the monies that are coming for the national government. They simply say, we do not know. We saw Turkana governor can't explain how much, or can't even differentiate what a seed and a seedling is. And the Senate committee is right there. They can't explain how he spent 55 million shillings. Total corruption that is in the face of the committee that is winning these governors, and nothing happens. It's nothing. I mean, it's the order of the day. So no wonder now some governors then have come here to defy Senate amid bribery scandal. And this is what this story is talking about. County bosses have resolved they won't appear before Senate watchdog committee, accusing its members of extortion and embarrassing them to gain political mileage. Are they embarrassing them? I do not know. It's not embarrassment when you ask questions that you can't respond to. I mean, go watch the proceedings. I beseech you to go watch the proceedings. Some of these governors, they just into wanton corruption in these county governments, and they know nothing is going to happen to them. Yeah, the protests come as outrageous expenditures are exposed during County Public Accounts Committee hearings on audit queries, which governors claim senators are exploiting to extort bribes. But senators have dismissed the accusations, arguing the county chiefs have resorted to the smear campaign in an attempt to dodge accountability. They have vowed not to relent in the quest to stop looting of public funds. You as a senator, you're vowing to stop the looting of public funds, and the only thing that you gotta do is just question them and then recommend or send your recommendations to EAC who do nothing. How many governors have we seen convicted from your reports? How many? I mean, this is the fourth year that you're doing this. But then how many governors have we seen reported to EACC, and then we hear they're in court the next month or the next day? None. Some of your governors are spending up to 250 million shillings. There are billions of shillings that you're unearthing from that committee, but we never see exactly what happens afterwards. Now, all of a sudden, this is turned political, and I want to read that story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Now, some of the governors that are very, very notorious in snapping the Senate, we do have Abdul Somad Nasser, Mombasa. We do have Abdi Guyo, Isiolo, Lati Lelet, Samburu, Simbarati, Kisii, Gideon Mungaro, Kilifi, Fernandez Baraza, Kakamega. And by the way, the fine for missing that Senate sitting is 600,000 shillings. And I do wonder, where does that money come from that they used to pay these fines? Yeah? Because every other time you're given a letter to attend the Senate hearing, if you don't come, 600,000 shillings. Yeah? Now, let's look at missed Senate invitees on Monday, some who missed. We don't have Stephen Sang Nandi, James Orengo Siaya, Joshua Irungu Laikipia, Mudhomi Njuki Tharakanithi, Cecily Mbarire, Embu, Ibungu Kangata Muranga, and Isa Timami Lamu, all those mixed. And then later, some of the governors went and held a press conference and said they are planning to snap these hearings because they feel that the senators are smearing them for the political campaigns in 2027, and that some senators have been corrupted, that there's a corruption scandal going within that committee where they ask for money once they come and find that there are some discrepancies in the accounts of these counties. It's a sad, sad situation. It's a sad situation. I do not know where we're going as a country, where a governor comes in and says, Yes, it's an irregularity. We misused 5 million shillings for the county government, meant for a specific project. But then nothing happens to them. They come in and apologize. It'll never happen again. But that's corruption. That's breaking of the law. You should go home. I mean, ESCC should come in and do something. And when some governors just never appear, then how are we going to know that you're being accountable in your county governments? It's a sad story, isn't it? You're going to read that story on pages 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Let's look at another story here. Former Mwea Member of Parliament linked to car theft syndicate. Now, Directorate of Criminal Investigations, detectives have arrested former Mwea Member of Parliament Peter Gitau on suspicion of involvement in the theft of vehicles, including a truck belonging to Murang'a County government. 2 lorries were recovered in Mombasa with fake registration numbers, police have now said. That story has been covered on page 3 of the Daily Nation. There's a story here you're going to read on page 2 on how 4 brothers die in a quarry that authorities refuse to refill. Page 2 of the Daily Nation, and the pictures are right there. It's a really sad story on page 2 of the Daily Nation. All right, let's cross over to the Standard. What do you have on the Standard this morning? Trained savages. That's what the Standard is talking about. See exactly what the headline is. That at the time, the family of killed KMTC student is seeking answers. The police, in a statement, rather than give assurance, revealed the callousness with which it treats human life. In an outrageous turn, it seemed to blame residents for the death, which points to a remorseless service unable to tame officers thirsty for the next drop of blood, despite vigilant efforts made to turn the police force into a police service to align it with the requirements of the Bill of Rights in the Constitution, whose spirit is to save human life. The behaviors therein are stuck in a gone-by era. Pages 2 and 3. I mean, the conversations that are very difficult to have. Yeah. You don't have to go very far. I mean, police misconduct in this country. It's everywhere. The police and the people, they don't see eye to eye. And when you look at some of these headlines, you have leaders who are telling the police to shoot and that they'll protect them. When that time arrives, they're going to get questions. IPOA is one of those that are, for lack of better analysis, questionable into the way that they deal in the cases that are involved, that the police are involved in. Yeah? Let's read it. This is what George Samali, who's a security analyst, is saying, that human rights training is not a new concept. It has existed as long as I can remember. During our time, the course was known as liberal studies. The truth of the matter is that training curriculum is good. The elephant in the room is the executive influence over the police, and that's completely true. This is what John Boto, the senior lecturer and security studies at Kenyatta University, the situation begets impunity with officers contravening rights aware that nothing will happen to them. In most instances, there is no penalty against abuse of human rights, and it's business as usual due to lack of accountability. That's so true. There's a picture here of a 21-year-old, Cheryl Adhiambo, was the Kenya Medical Training College student who was killed by the police. It's a sad story. You're going to read that story on page 2 and 3. And sometimes I pray that you don't get in the wrong hands of the police. We've seen it happen in this country. Yeah. Remember Juma's case, where you're transported to the police. Why you think you're going to be safe? I mean, you're taken to the police cells so your case can take a proper channel. If you have a case, that is. And when you get there, you're killed. Guess who's back in office? Police boss is in office. Every other person is not. And we're living. Yeah, like nothing happened. It is what it is. Anyway, let's cross over to what is trending this morning. We do have a couple of issues. Just before we cross over, there is the Financial Standard here that's talking about how state is now seeking new revenue as road levy fund dims. Treasury is now foregoing 2.2 billion due to the adoption of electric vehicles, a figure that is expected to hit 9.2 billion by 2030 and 90 billion by 2043. All right? Pages 20 and 21. I mean, if you're not getting it, then come up with more charging stations in the country. Improve your grid and charge for charging cars in this country. You can get it. You have to look for a new source of revenue. I was looking at the percentage of the electric vehicles that are in this country. Not so much. In fact, we are way behind in that conversation of electric vehicles in this country. 2.2 billion is a lot of money, but then there is an open avenue. Come up with that robust infrastructure to help charging of electric cars in this country, and then, come up with measures to promote majority of Kenyans, for us who never dreamed of driving electric cars, to see the need to go get an electric car. That story is on page 20 and 21. CBK tough balancing, act on loan costs ahead of the 2027 polls. That story has been covered on page 19 as well. That's your newspaper review this morning. On that note, I just want us to cross over and see what is trending online. A lot of conversations about ODM and where ODM finds itself now in the face of the likes of Sifuna, Orengo, Babu Wino, and the other group that is not in it. There's been a lot of conversations, especially after this weekend, where they hit the streets and held public rallies in Busia. All right, let's watch this clip of one, Sifuna and Babu Wino rallying thousands in Busia, and then come back and see exactly what Kenyans are talking about it. All right. That is Babu Wino and Sifuna, and you can see in the background also other political leaders who attended that rally in Busia. I mean, if you were thinking about whether this split is there or not, now you do know that it's there. Nobody needs to come and tell you what this is and how to interpret it. It's there. And it's led by the Sifuna wing, the likes of James Orengo, who have come out and publicly said that ODM will never join UDA. So who's speaking in ODM? Let me just read a couple of responses here from majority of Kenyans. This is Jobura Otieno. Anasema hakuna mali hii brigade inaenda. Imeenda Busia bwana. Otieno. Si imeenda Busia. All right? Jokomala, who's saying, when did you love ODM? All right? Now is the time for you to start loving it. This is Jokomala. This is Darius, who's saying, even Bobby Wine was a good dancer. Bwana, Darius, jefika huko bwana. Si walikuwa Busia na uliona vile numbers zilikuwa mingi. You know? All right? Real Tinega, who's saying, this is all we needed, the making of great leaders within this country. All right? Ganja Felix, who's saying Nairobi Senator is pure Nairobi vibes. Ni kweli eti yeye ni leta tu vibes za Nairobi huku ushago. Eti Sifuna alipeleka tu vibes za Nairobi huko Busia. Yeah? Aya. This is Phyllis Sweetie who's saying, please God tuchungie Sifuna na Babu. Amen. Sasa kama ndasema amen. Unajua mtu akishasema amen, you're supposed to follow it up with that amen. But I don't think I'm allowed to say that on air this morning. This is Kenny Toz who's saying anything that is on Broadway or broad-based on broad-based nilirap kitambo. It's just like telling me Suluhu ni Kikwete. It makes sense now, isn't it? Finally then, Farah Aden was saying this is dead on arrival. They're trying to use Baba playbook of opposition. Haiwezi sahi. Question is, what has Sifuna done since becoming a senator after failing severally to be a member of parliament in his hometown? The maths has been done in a 2-term. Finally, I gotta read this one. Affordable ODM wanashanga. Kwani mshaanza kuita affordable ODM? Anyway, that's exactly what it is. I mean, I want to call it a saga because Badi, who's a CS, who's not supposed to come in a politic, he came out yesterday and he was saying that there's no way Sifuna can be in ODM. It came out as CS. You're not really supposed to talk issues, party politics.
Umesikia nimetangaza juzi, nimesema kama kuna mtu kama wewe ambaye umekuwa kujifunza mtaani, unajua kuwa fundi mason. Sasa niko na program ya kuweza wewe sasa nikuchukue ujiandikishe uende kwa nyota *254#. Yes. Alafu uenda hapo kwa nyota, kuna kitu inaitwa on the job training. Alafu utaenda hapo nitakupanga. Alma uache hiyo uende ingine inaitwa recognition of prior learning. Yaani mtu kama wewe ambayo tayari unajua wewe ni mason tayari. Lakini huna certificate. Sasa nitakupanga nikulipie certificate, tukufanyie exam, tukupatie certificate. Next place unaenda ukiwa na certificate.
Hiyo ni vizuri kabisa.
Utajipanga?
Utajipanga kabisa.
Umesikia nimesema nini? *254. Sasa vile nitafanya, umesikia nimetangaza juzi, ile mtu umepata unang'ang'ana na hiyo. Kwa salama? So ni mambo gani sasa hii? Kutengeneza kiwanja?
Kutengeneza uwanja, this level.
Pongezi kabisa. Sukuma kabisa. So mnaona kama yamebaki siku ngapi? Kidogo. Nianze kupanga ingine? Tumesema hii Kenya tunajenga. Yes. So mjipange. Mimi nang'ang'ana na nyinyi mng'ang'ane. Sawa? So
acha tuelekee nyumbani.
Hapana, ile Mau Summit. Okay. Yeah. Okay, wewe ni carpenter, uko na certificate ya carpentry? Oh, very good. Ulisomea wapi? Mande ya Ukambani. Okay. Makindu. Kwa TVET ama kwa kazi?
When it comes to, I can call it, when it comes to PR, proper public relations, I mean, gotta give it to him, man. I mean, are you gonna hate these good-looking pictures from here? It's a president interacting with his fellow citizens that he has helped secure a job in one of the biggest projects in the country currently, as it is. You know, I'm telling you, man. Can't hate it. Don't hit the player, just hit the game, man. This guy's got game. Yeah, that's the only thing I'm going to say. Natalie Maina was saying the only pity you should have is your own payslip. This is Will Kirima who's saying even Hitler spoke to the hearts of the right people. Doesn't mean he was right. That's not me. This is from Kirima. All right? There's one here, Ndorobo Maritim, who's saying you belong to a circle of eating from either PS, Interior, or one of the two CSs from Nyanza. I'm telling you, man. It's beautiful pictures here. All right? Host Mist, who's saying no one eats stadiums, do things that benefit masses. I mean, Jackson Madai, who's saying he has done well in building the stadium. However, one good in 20 bombs should that warrant him for the two-term conversation? I do not know. Do you think this is enough for warranting the president the two-term conversation? Naona jana alipiga mpira bwana kwa Talanda Stadium. Ama mko na hiyo picha? I'm just saying. It is what it is. Okay. This morning again, it's all about Ruto because in his move again to weigh on what's going on in the country, kuna majamaa wawili wanaenda kupigana. Umeona hiyo video ya weka mawe? Weka mawe. And Kenyans have taken it in different directions. Wengine hata walikuwa wanasema weka mafuta. Niona mwingine akisema weka omena. Mpaka chapati. So the president weighed in on it and said, I gotta do something about it. So yesterday, as it stands, and I'll be showing you this clip, President Dr. William Ruto called Jalango to State House, to his office actually, and gave him 4 million bob as part of the stakes in a match. So wale majamaa wawili already washalipwa. Think about it. Yule jamaa weka mawe, ndakubomoa uso. He already has his milli waiting for him somewhere because the president said participating alone will get paid. You know, the match is in April. I can't seem to remember the date. Let's just watch this clip and then come back and see what majority of Kenyans are talking about it. Let's watch it.
Sema weka mawe.
Jalash. Mawe ile mimi najua ni affordable housing. SHA. Kazi mtaani. Nyota. Hiyo ndio mawe mimi naelewa.
Lakini sasa kuna mawe mpya. Kuna vijana wawili. Kuna vijana wawili.
Yes.
Moja anaitwa Majembe, moja anaitwa Mbavu the Destroyer. Wanakutana tarehe 4 mwezi wa 4. Tumewapatia 1 month ya kutrain. Sasa lazima uwekelee mawe.
Na si affordable housing.
Si affordable housing.
Na si nyota.
Na si SHA.
Hata sio soko.
Sio soko pia. Hii ni mawe tofauti. Sema ni mbaya.
Okay, Jalango. Sasa huyu Majembe.
Na Mbavu the Destroyer.
Huyu wa kuweka mawe. Sasa mimi nawatakia heri.
Unatakia heri.
Waende washughulike. Na mimi nawekea Majembe 1 million.
Mbavu Destroyer
1 million. Alafu kwa sababu kuna watu wataenda pale kuwatch. Nitalipa gate ama ticket ya watu
1,000
na watu 1,000. So
2,000 tickets.
2,000 tickets.
Sema ni mbaya.
Hii ni mbaya. Hii ni mbaya.
Thank you.
Ile naona hii ni mbaya.
Ni mbaya.
Ni hivyo sasa Majembe na Mbavu the Destroyer. They're the new millionaires in town. Yeah, simple as that. Yeah. Kuna tickets, and those guys are gonna be doing it on the 4th of April, isn't it? Well, the president has bought tickets. Already 2,000 people can attend because it's 1,000 shillings to go watch that match. And yeah, as it stands, Mbavu the Destroyer na wekelelea mawe wako tu sawa. Sasa naitwa majembe. All right? Let's look at it. By the way, many of us that didn't vote for Ruto have started loving the work he's doing. Only one thing remaining, if he comes out to fight corruption aggressively, as he's doing on the other things, will have no choice but overwhelmingly rally behind him all the time. This is Mutex, all right? Let me just read two more before we go on a break. This is Anthony Wambugu saying, ni mbaya aki. Hii pesa kila mtu akue tu anaguzishwa zake. A win is a win. So umebaiwa ticket, bro. Umeguzishwa thao. Just go get it, all right? All right. Finally then, let's stop giving these people platforms to advance their political agenda. You guys forget too fast. This is Altman who's saying this, all right? Finally, this is African who's saying, hii ni mbaya, moto sana, majembe, atavunja Mbavu. That match, by the way, is on the 4th. And other clips that were shown is that the custodian of that money, who's apparently Oga Obinna, I was told, isn't it, received that bundle of the 4 million. Now then, in the spirit of that fight, because that's the only thing that excites us, Sandambia to director, weka break, bwana, weka break. We're gonna break. Once we come back, let's talk about serious issues. Let's talk about advocacy communication and what we need it as a continent. Once we come back.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Lookup, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki, na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wasa wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hao sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi mazuri.
Mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
I recall the doctor telling me that day, he said, Sarah, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but you see, life happens. You would have to learn to work with your hands, depend on your hands more.
And today, if you're going through anything that you do not understand, just call on this name, Jesus, and he will save you.
I realized I loved music when I was about 7 or 8. I used to puff my cheeks and play the 12-bar blues. Like I'd walk around the house doing like...
Why do we need the Holy Spirit?
I mean, if you look at what Jesus said when he was leaving, he said he is going and that he will send the Holy Spirit as our helper.
So God knows everything since the end, from the beginning, has a plan for your life. So to find that plan for your life, you must find God. When you find God, you will know the path for your life.
For you to forgive someone who has hurt you?
How easy is it?
What are some tips, a person can apply to improve their public speaking skills?
We all have personality lazy somewhere around us. in my mind, whenever I'm invited for a public speaking event, I don't like to put a lot of, accessories or too many colors.
What are the major things to look out when choosing a school for a child?
Another cheesy conversation starter is, men do this a lot. Men look familiar. Have we met before? No. We met in
Nobody's buying that line again.
No, we don't. We don't buy it anymore.
Welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles King again. In case you are just joining us, this is Look Up TV. But most certainly, you are just in time for a conversation that I've been looking forward to since last week. The way we're supposed to communicate as a country in the wake of artificial intelligence and a lot of communication that is geared towards advocacy as a country. Now, this is the introduction that we did this morning, but for the sake of those who are joining us right now, you gotta know that Kenya is rapidly positioning itself as a regional leader in artificial intelligence and digital innovation. Now, with a new national AI strategy that is supposed to run the country to 2030 and strong backing from global institutions such as UNESCO, the World Bank, and UN agencies, from disaster early warning systems to media, advocacy and development programming technology is increasingly shaping how stories are told, how resources are allocated, and how citizens engage with power. Yet, alongside this momentum, I had questions about inequality, ethics, trust, and whether communication has kept pace with innovation or left communities behind. Now, today's conversation sits at the intersection of technology, storytelling, and public impact as AI tools enter newsrooms, development organizations, and advocacy spaces. Communicators are being forced to think and rethink of how narratives are built, whose voices are amplified, and how data-driven systems remain human-centered. Now, with experience spanning East Africa's development sector, our guest that we're going to talk about this morning brings a grounded perspective on what is working, what is failing, and what must change if technology is to genuinely serve people rather than distance them from the decisions that are shaping their lives. Also then this morning, I want you to help me welcome our guest this morning, who is Hilda Felicia, a communication and advocacy specialist. Hilda, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Happy to have you around in the studio this morning. I'll jump directly into this conversation. Even before we get to go into the bits and pieces of what we're supposed to talk about this morning, advocacy and communication. Why is that an important conversation that we should be having this morning?
If you look at what advocacy means, is more of speaking on behalf of someone.
Yes.
How many Kenyans can speak on their own? So for you to be an advocate of someone, you should be able to speak it up. So that is how communication and advocacy comes in.
Yes.
You're speaking for somebody to air out their opinion, what are or other people around that place, what are they saying about it? So when it comes to development world, most of the time we are working on different projects, we are trying to influence policies. How do you influence policy? You need to go to the field or to the communities, speak with them, understand what they're saying, then speak for them now out there. You air it out for them. And for you to be able to do that, you need to be able to clearly communicate. Is it a policy brief? Are you going to talk with the county officials? Are you going to talk with the national delegates? How are you going to say it out there?
That's it, pretty much. And when it comes to advocacy in a Kenyan context, and we're going to talk about how we need to tell our stories within this communication. I was looking at it, the different ways that we communicate through advocacy. I said, in that I found disaster management, in that I found policy communication. As a country, where do you think advocacy goes into most of the times?
So I think as a country, I feel like we tend to miss out the advocacy. We try to push it more into policy brief because there's that belief that we have that if you're able to shift the policy or to change a policy or introduce a policy, it's going to have a change. However, sometimes you find you're able to probably push for a policy, but now when it comes to implementation of the policy, that is where the rain starts beating us. Because you've advocated for this, the communities know it, the government knows it, but now the implementation, and probably at one point there's the steering team that is supposed to help with implementation. So if the steering team is not taking it up and just going to the communities and trying to put what is on paper to action, then that is where we normally start having challenges.
Yes,
yeah,
pretty much. Let's then get into our conversation this morning, and I would like to pick it from the NGO world. I mean, we do know very well that each country runs on a model for we need to talk about what our challenges are, we need to talk about what's working on the ground so that we can tell our donors and our development partners a good case on the ground so that they can come in and help us develop these particular areas. Let's begin from there. When I was looking at it, then I came up with something that is called our story. That when you're communicating to these NGOs, when you're communicating to these development partners, that you've got to tell the story of the country, the story of the community, the story on the ground. What is our story, Hilda?
Interesting question, because most of the time when we're developing the website, instead of saying impact stories, we'll say our stories. That is one, to personalize it, because it is part of us. What is it that we are doing with these people or with these communities that is changing? So when you're doing your story or our story, as you mentioned, it is about us. What have we done? What has this person benefited? So that is how our stories come into context. However, if you also look at it from communications perspective, we want to be associated with it. We want to personalize it. It's ours, not somebody else telling it. We're telling our story ourselves. And we don't want, there's the element of distort when you let somebody else tell your story. So let's tell our story the way we know it and the way it's happening.
Yes. I'm not done with it. I'm not done with that particular question, because when I was also looking around this particular area, I found that the majority of the challenges that people normally get when they're telling the story of the community is most of the stories tend to be generic. They're all geared to, can we communicate in a way that would persuade this development partner to give us these monies or to come in and help us solve this challenge, but then the voice of the people is never heard in it. It's the voice of the communicator that is heard in this case study that we're talking about here. How do we tell our story? How do we make it run away from these lines of being generic to the story of the community, to the story of the country, as opposed to the story of the communicator?
Okay, so one thing I've learned based on my experience and in my career path is one, letting the person, the community person, speak for themselves.
That's it.
One, it's authentic.
Yes.
Two, there's no way I can direct them and tell them, you have to say this and this. If you didn't work on that program with that community person, there's no way you're going to force them to tell it that way. So one thing of the best way I've learned to say it's letting them speak for themselves, working in a testimonial kind of a way. You just do a short clip interview or a write-up. What has this project impacted on you? You let them speak for themselves. That one, the story will come, the authenticity in it will come out clearly. That is one. Secondly, when it comes to donor communication, a donor, we call social return on investment. So with SROI, one key thing, I have invested and I want to see the impact in the community. As opposed to Maloa, Hilda telling you that, oh, this is what we've done, this is 1, 2, 3, we've implemented the project. Hilda can create up the story.
That's it.
Hilda is educated, but at one point you're working with community members who are not educated. So one of the other ways we've learned to do it, we let them speak their languages. We'll rather look for an interpreter, a local interpreter, to speak the local dialect with them and to just let them tell the story.
Yes.
So that is one way that we've been able to get the authenticity coming out from them clearly.
That's it. It's a good thing that you're speaking about authenticity. Gotta open you up to numbers that we know are very, very clear now. But when it comes to Africa, Kenya is among the leading countries in adoption of artificial intelligence. And if you look at how artificial intelligence has gotten into our daily commute in life, you'll find that even in communication, artificial intelligence is now leading in terms of use. Kenya, as it stands, has got a national artificial intelligence strategy that is running all the way up to 2030, which is also heavily supported by bigger organizations like UNESCO. In your experience, is this making it easier for advocacy communication, or it's still taking us back to what we're talking about, that it's turning out to be generic? We are not seeing the voices of the people. We're not seeing participatory communication in majority of our advocacy programs.
Okay, so ideally with me, when we talk about artificial intelligence, and if you look at the Kenya strategy 2025-2030,
yes,
one of the reasons why it came out so loud is one, the element of job loss. Because with the artificial intelligence, there is one belief that we're going to lose jobs.
Yes.
Is it a possibility? Yes, it is a possibility. Secondly, there's the element of, if you look at media laws and ethics, there's an abuse in terms of artificial intelligence by just the general public. So in my response to this, I'll say one, there will not be job losses. As a communicator, you need to learn to embrace. With AI, if you don't, you have to tell AI what you want for it to provide it for you. So you can't just get information out of it from there, anywhere. Who can tailor this communication? It's me, the communicator. Secondly, there's the humanity part of it. So AI is not human. It can't connect individuals in the stories of individuals in different communities. It cannot connect that. It is me, the communicator, who has that influence with the communities. I'm the link between the AI and the community. So I'm the one giving the community the voice. I'll tell the stories of the community. AI cannot do that. So in terms of job loss, I don't think it's really going to be so much there. It's all about how are you embracing it, yes, and how are you using it.
That's it.
To answer your second part of the question, these actors coming in and just the shift, are they going to create the drift more, or is it going to be, are they going to improve it? For me, it will still come back to the communicator. How are we communicating this strategy? How many Kenyans know about the strategy? Very few people know that we have an AI strategy.
That's true.
So that means already there's a bridge in terms of communication. Kenyans don't know about it. So if you're expecting to implement it and expecting it to work, you need to get a communicator who will break down the information in that strategy and make the general public to understand. So if there's not going to be a communicator to bridge that communication gap, then definitely it may not work and may make it even worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But even within that conversation, there's also another ground that has opened up. It's pretty much on the ethics and frameworks that can deepen inequality caused by communicating through AI, this advocacy that we're talking about. Do you believe that as a country we are communicating this strategy properly as a country, or it is, Kenya is a ripe area for AI and just go use it, just come up with a strategy, but is the strategy getting communicated properly in the country?
No, I don't think the strategy is really getting communicated properly, and it still brings me back to how many Kenyans know about this. One, those of us who are into probably not even development space, but let me talk about digital space.
That's it.
Probably they are aware that there is a strategy to this. So they'll try to look into it, and people will look into the strategy based on, especially the framework talking about the governance of it in terms of the lawsuits and everything. That is where people will get into it And how many people are going to look at it? It brings us to the shift between the urban and the rural.
That's it.
So that means that ideally, probably the urban community in Kenya are probably aware of it, and whatever is attracting them is probably just one thing, either job loss or probably the element of governance. If I do what with AI, will it lead for me to be charged in court for a lawsuit? So if you look at it, it hasn't been channeled down to the communities, even to just the urban areas. I don't think a majority of us in Nairobi itself know about that strategy.
Yes.
So unless you're into the ICT space or into digital space, I don't think Kenyans really aware of it.
Pretty much. Let's keep on eating this cake for communication and advocacy with AI involved in it as well. So looking at a report by the World Bank, I think they released it in the course of 2022-2023. What they said, good thing is that AI in this country is really developing. It's changing the way people communicate. It's changing the way we view the communication world and the advocacy world. But then one thing that they also noted, Hilda, in that report is that when it comes to funding, majority of these funds are going to big, well-organized organizations. Well, we do know very well that that's not the end game for AI, that AI is supposed to go to the end user, down there on the ground where we need to communicate, when we need to get these advocacy programs to. This gap that we're talking about here, that is existing here, where we're saying ICT needs to develop properly in this country for us to keep on growing as a country. But then when you look at where funding is going, funding is directed to these big organizations that are into research and development as opposed to getting to the end user. What do you think is going to close this gap so that we start saying, well, you know what, in this country, AI is right there on the ground?
For me, one key thing that we need to note is that we have community-based organizations in Kenya,
yes,
which will really come in handy in cascading down the AI tools and AI to the communities. That will work. Unfortunately, they don't have the right structure.
Yes.
Or at one point, they don't have the right people or the human resource to just be able to help with this. People assume AI is easy. I'll just tell it this, or it's just an online tool. And it's the most interesting part. The other time we had a case and somebody just decided that it was AI. It wasn't me. You can hear this is this person's voice, but it was AI. That means we also have a challenge between people differentiating reality versus AI. So that means for me, one of the reasons why probably the funding goes to the research organizations or to well-organized organizations is one, they do have the structures to cascade it down. However, probably they're not able to reach everyone. The right way is probably, if we are working with this big organization, let them partner with a community-based organization where they can have one person probably in every community-based organization trained on AI, learn how to use it. Then this person can train other people. So we can use the training of trainers methodology, whereby we train people who also go to train others and they train others. Or we can work with community leaders who are interested into the digital world. Because I believe in every community, even in your local home, there is that person who you all know. When it comes to IT, we can consult that person. So we can look at those people who are very good with IT in their local communities. Then we train them. We let them train other people. So for me, that is the best way to cascade it down. And it's unfortunate that probably it may take time, but I think it's something that can really work out well for us as a nation.
Yes. Yeah. Other reports are also indicating that in this country and world over, AI is now a tool that is widely used in newsrooms. That when it comes to communication, it has helped us shift through masses of data that really help journalists and editors in newsrooms to come up with proper pieces that are then churned out to the masses. But my question is this, as a communication specialist, do you think that this, in a sense, Hilda, has taken away the ability of the newsrooms to create their spatial narrative, to churn out their stories in a spatial way, so we can have our own case narrative as opposed to an AI narrative? With AI now in the newsrooms, Are we losing the authenticity of our storytelling? Are we, this generism of the information that we're putting out, can we ever get done away with it?
As mentioned, you have to embrace the change, or the change will change you. So for me, one key thing when it comes to AI and probably just sharing information and data, when it comes to science communication, which is something we're really working out with researchers, having worked with a research organization, and you're supposed to cascade down the information, and also in the health sector, AI is really an important tool for me.
Yes.
One, sometimes previously, prior to AI era, you had to really struggle to get an infographic that will communicate something to the communities. But right now, you have the idea in mind. Once you have the idea, you can feed it to AI. I'd like such an image demonstrating such a thing, and this is how I want it to come. Then with that, I can develop a story that communities are easily going to understand that this is the first step. For example, and I'm really happy, although this is not in terms of AI, but I was looking at, for example, Mamito's story of Brufen.
Yes.
One of the challenges we're having in Kenya, or as Africa, is the resistance when it comes to antibiotics.
That's true.
And if you look at the story of Brufen, you can connect it. Tell me, how am I going to explain it to somebody so in a rural area that you can't continuously take Septrin for any cough you're having or any tonsils? That is where AI comes in. That is exactly where AI comes in. So I can do a presentation or a story of a child, they are continuously taking the medicine. It stops working at one point. They take it, then now that it becomes resistance to them. Those are stories that AI are really helping us to tell.
Yes.
Remember, one of the things in terms of ethics in communication in just media in general is the element of consent. How many people are willing to appear for you to work with them for a story? So that is one challenge that also AI has been able to solve, especially when you're using infographics and animations.
That's true.
So for me, you have to embrace the change, or it will change you.
Yes.
And when it changes you, it doesn't change you to a positive way. It will be more of now a war, because it is a change that is coming. The question is, how do you use it to make things better?
That's it.
And not it using you. Because sometimes when you allow it to use you, then that means, the other day, It's Unfortunate is a popular newspaper in Kenya, and as a communicator, and I believe even you can tell that this is an AI story.
That's it.
And the unfortunate part is that they left, if you work with ChatGPT, there's a point it tells you, you can add more, or should I add you this? So you leave that and you submit that story. That means there are two people who didn't do their job.
That's it.
There's the journalist and there's the editor. Is it wrong to use it to work your story? It's not wrong, because sometimes you can come up with a story, you can write it, but you need a second eye to edit it for you. You can share the story there. That is how you will use it. But if you let AI now use you, that means you don't even care. You just, you want this, you go, it gives you. You don't edit it, you don't proofread it, you don't give it the human narrative. So by the end of the day, we don't have a story from you. And that is why we're losing the authenticity.
That's it.
Yeah.
Still on that, and I was told to put this question to you this morning as well. There's a journalist who works in one of the media stations across the country. And this is what he said, and I'll read it. He said that one of my biggest challenges currently as it is to go online and look at the information that I'm supposed to use and generate my stories. Goes on to say, I have to double check, sometimes even fifth check, all this information, because currently as it is, you're going to find that AI is very easy to achieve what human beings can be able to achieve, but it's also very easy for a trained eye to know that this is information that is coming from AI. It goes on to say, in fact, majority of the pieces that I've interacted with online that most people are commenting to and then says a lot of comments in quotes are AI pieces. I feel as a communicator and as a journalist, I cannot compete with AI. In a case scenario, also as a journalist, also when I'm online, looking at ads that are talking about diseases, communities, and I can actually see that this is an AI video, this is an AI generated infographic that people are really commenting to and reacting to. It's very easy to mislead through AI because majority of us have not been trained on identifying what is AI or not. And Hilda, as AI keeps on improving, the line between what is AI and not is also becoming thinner and thinner. Are we at a point of losing this authenticity in communication?
Still saying we're not losing it. It's us who are not just being intentional on how we use the AI.
Yes.
The same way you're saying you're getting videos and everything. This is one challenge that AI has brought, and this is at organizational level. So being someone who has been in communication for quite some time, one of the challenges is previously communication to be just acknowledged as something important. It took time. We didn't wake up and we were acknowledged. So with AI, at one point, organizations are looking at it, you will use AI to get it. So that means our budget, we're getting budget cuts. So if somebody is a communicator and they don't know how to create the narrative,
yes,
how to come up with a script for a story, then ideally that is where we're having AI misleading us. But if you're able to come up with a script of a story, for example, assuming I want to demonstrate agroecological practices,
yes,
in environmental science. First of all, as Maloa, who is the communicator, I need to understand these practices. And I need to say this practice leads to this, leads to this, leads to this. I have to have the narration myself. Once I have the narration, then from there, I can now decide to use AI. Help me create an image of Hilda, or most of the time for me, all the advice when using AI, don't use real images. Use an animation or an infographic. That one really works well because you've not used anybody, so the element of no, this person looks so fake, it's not going to be there. So for me, all advice for using of an animation of an infographic, then I can tell it, please provide me with an intercropping practice image. Let it be an animated, an infographic. Let's have 1, 2, 3 crops. Because one of the things I understand is that when it comes to intercropping, we talk about having the legumes and maize, and right now we're even advocating for vegetables with sukuma wiki, and it works.
Yes.
So depending on what story I'm working on, I will feed it in. So the challenge comes in if the communicator does not understand what they want to communicate. Because as mentioned, you give AI information. AI does not give information. You're the one who shares with it what you want and how you want it. So as long as you don't understand what you're communicating, there's no way you're going to make AI work.
Yes.
And that is where now the authenticity comes in, because one, you've just told them generate agroecological practices. As a farmer or someone in the community level, it will be a mixture. It will give you everything once. And it will even be noise to the eye. But if I'm working to, I have the first slide, I create a video, and you see now that is where the challenge comes in. For me, when working with AI and you want to tell a story in terms of a video format, one, you can use Canva, or you can still use on Microsoft, is it Clipchamp or something?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can just have the first image, the agroecological practices. First practice this, it leads to this second practice, it leads to this third practice. But there's someone there who wants AI to do all those agroecological practices. AI will give you one video with everything shambled.
Yes.
So if you don't have a keen eye, or if you haven't interacted with it, you may think it's true, but reality is it's not true. So That is where we are having the problem. The communicator not understanding what they're supposed to communicate.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate that if you don't understand, you cannot communicate what you don't know. Yes.
Pretty much. Guess what? Once we come back, I'll be bringing to you some of the numbers of what young people in the country believe how AI is going to impact their careers and why they feel that indeed it's going to be a negative impact, so that you and I can look at what can we do better in communication so we can drive the youth to a certain direction when it comes to them interacting with AI. Also, I know you have questions about AI as well. We're still with Hilda this morning talking about why advocacy communication at the advent of artificial intelligence is an important communication or conversation as a country we need to have at this particular time. Once we come back, the hashtag is still The Morning Drift.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Lookup, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki, na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hao sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi mwanzo.
Mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
I recall the doctor telling me that day, he said, Sarah, I'm sorry about what happened to you, but you see, life happens. You would have to learn to work with your hands. Depend on your hands more.
And today, if you're going through anything that you do not understand, just call on this name, Jesus, and he will save you.
I realized I loved music when I was about 7 or 8. I used to puff my cheeks and play the 12-bar blues. Like I'd walk around the house doing like...
Why do we need the Holy Spirit?
I mean, if you look at what Jesus said when he was leaving, he said he is going and that he will send the Holy Spirit as our helper.
So God knows everything since the end, from the beginning, has a plan for your life. So to find that plan for your life, you must find God. When you find God, you will know the path for your life.
Is it for you to forgive someone who has hurt you?
How easy is it?
What are some tips, a person can apply to improve their public speaking skills?
We all have personality lazy somewhere around us.
In my mind, whenever I'm invited for a public speaking event, I don't like to put a lot of, accessories or too many colors.
What are the major things to look out when choosing a school for a child?
Another cheesy conversation starter is, men do this a lot. They look familiar. Have we met before? No. We met in
Nobody is buying that line again.
No, we don't. We don't buy it anymore.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Let's then get into the last part of our conversation this morning, and we're still on the importance of proper communication and advocacy as well. We're still with Hilda this morning, still looking at this particular conversation. Hilda, let's talk about other areas of this conversation. UNESCO is also indicating something to us this morning, that communication to the young people in developing countries is indicating that AI is going to impact their lives and their jobs as well. But what is leading in this communication is that AI is cutting down in the number of jobs that these young people are trusting to get into. I mean, you and I don't know. If you go online right now and say, what jobs are not going to be available in the next 10 years, there's so many of them. There's so many of them. In fact, it was just yesterday I was having a conversation with a couple of my friends. I was telling them, even teachers might be wiped out in just a couple of years to come. Because some schools currently, as it is, are 90% AI, 10% tutor mode. Now there's that conflict of why AI is going to really fit in the lives of the young people who are being told AI is also another part of your studies that you can actually start studying right now. You need to learn AI. But there isn't a communication that is telling them this is how you need to position yourself in the advent of AI. How are we supposed to communicate to these young people, 90% of them who know very well that their lives are going to be impacted by AI? What should we be telling them right now?
I think, no, that's the unfortunate part with AI. And as you've mentioned, communication is one of the jobs that has been mentioned to be heavily affected. Because even before AI, yes, we have sites like Hootsuite, Buffer, where you can schedule posts and they post.
That's it.
So I have worked with somebody in tech, and one of the things they didn't want is to help. I also work as a consultant.
That's it.
So I was hoping to do their social media strategy and to also just be able to do their social media. Unfortunately, they told me just develop the strategy, then for postings and everything, we will use AI. So I'm like, how are you going to use AI? And then they're like, oh, it will just post for us. We'll just do post and it will post.
Yes.
Well and good. I decided, let me do my strategical part and let it pass it over to them. So the unfortunate part is that, one, with AI, how are you going to get the comments? How are you going to handle a crisis when it's a social media crisis? Will AI handle a crisis for you? You will need me, Hilda, the communicator. When you want to give feedback, yes, we have sites that give feedback, especially in terms of customer care. Unfortunately, it can only give it on a website. You are a startup, you can't afford a website. You're using social media. Even if you're embracing AI, you'll still need a communicator to be behind the scenes, to be able to just work around it and to bring the humanity part of it. How will AI, for example, try telling ChatGPT that I'm not feeling well. What will ChatGPT tell you? ChatGPT will tell you, visit hospital, blah, 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 or give you the diagnosis that will make you even crazier.
Yes.
So that means the human part is still needed. So for me, one thing I'll say is, basing on your career. For example, if you are a teacher, look at it in a way that, what is the weakness of AI in my area? Because AI is not perfect. Remember, it has been developed by a human being like you. Information is fed to AI by human beings like me and you. So what is the weakness of AI in your area? For communication, one of the clear things is that it doesn't give it the humanity part of it. It doesn't give the authenticity of the story. That is why you need a communicator to tell you that this is the prior situation of these communities. This is how they were living. This is the impact we've done to them. This is the trainings. These are what we've brought to them. And now this is how they're flourishing. AI will not do that. AI will just develop a story. It does not know the key practices. You're the one to give it to it. So for me, I'll just advise somebody, whichever area in your career, as much as AI is coming in handy,
yes,
but you still need to, these are weakness. So look at the weakness of AI in your area. Then you make sure you're good at that weakness.
That's it.
So that you're also able to embrace AI and you're still valued at the same time.
Pretty much.
And I feel it works well.
But I gotta talk to you about this as well. It's a good thing that I'm speaking to a lady in the studio this morning as well. When you look at communication and projects that are communicated towards women, especially in the African setting and the Kenyan setting, there's a big disparity in performance levels between projects that are women-led and projects that are men-led. In fact, businesses across the world, you find that the top-performing businesses are essentially held by men as well. And then when it came to the adoption of AI as well, in communication of women-led projects, it's also been discovered that women are lagging behind in adoption of AI and communicating using up-to-date tools where AI is leading in that particular area. So you find that women-led projects that need to communicate properly to get donor funding, they're not getting it as much as projects that are led by their male counterparts. Where's the disconnect, Hilda? Why are we not communicating properly as women in this country?
I would say that women are not communicating properly. And the beauty part of it, look at most communication specialists. Most of them are ladies. That is one. In terms of disparity, in terms of project performance, and in comparison of women adopting AI technology,
yes.
One, women are very protective of themselves. Women are very protective. Look at even the financial element. How long did it take women to just stop keeping that money from their mattress to take it to the bank? Today, bring something that is supposed to generate income or money. Men will adopt it first. Men are quick to I think it's by nature or in a way, according to me. Men are quick to, let's try it out. Women are not the kind of people who are just ready to try it out. They take time. So now that is where behavior change communication comes in. So with behavior change communication, they prefer change by seeing. You want to change somebody from doing maize and beans every single season to probably doing maize and cabbage, maize and sukuma wiki. They need to see it working first before they adopt it. And that is now the challenge we have with AI. One, it takes time. We agree there is mobile phone penetration in Kenya. It's quite high. However, look at probably just go in the communities. In terms of mobile phone, you'll find that the woman might have bought the mobile phone, but who is using it? The husband.
Yes.
So who has more access to internet and what is happening? It's the husband. It's unfortunate we're yet to get the gender equity. We're yet to get there. Are we trying? Yes, we are trying, but we're yet to get there. So if you look at it, some of those, it's not just the element of AI alone or women not wanting to. There are other factors that influencing it to not happen. And now that is where now we bring in the behavior change communication. How are we going to change this behavior?
Yes.
When it comes to behavior change communication, one of the key things is there are people who are willing to change, but they need to first of all see it. And in such situations, that's where you see us having things like demo farms. You find an organization helped to buy a farm, have the agroecological practices there, the community to see it working, then for them to implement. So there's so much to just adoption. There are other elements that making it not adopted. If this person does not have a phone, how will they adopt it? They will not. So, yeah.
That's it. Another area that AI has also opened up, we do know that in the traditional forms of communication, you had to go on the ground, speak directly to the people on the ground, collect that information. Number one, that means that for me to know the info, data for the people probably in a certain community, where I'm communicating about a certain project or I'm advocating for certain funding in that community, I previously had to go there, collect that data, speak to them directly, gain their permission to do research in that area before then I'm able to present this information. to an interested donor or a funding program who are going to come in. But AI has made it easier in the sense of that I can get all these demographics of these people. In fact, I can speak to them and present their data in a way that it doesn't necessarily need for me to go down on the ground and speak directly to them. So in issues of data privacy, I know we have a Data Privacy Act in this country. Do you think that we've integrated the capabilities of AI in the Data Protection Act? Because the capabilities of AI go beyond what the Data Protection Act has imagined, especially when you're trying to communicate and give demographics of a particular people, of a particular area, and when you want to really also get the information of these people. For example, a friend of mine told me yesterday, you know, Simba, I don't have to go on the ground to get direct quotes from these people on the ground. I can just go online and ask AI. There's a project AI, the name has gotten out of my head. There's a project AI that says if you need quotes and names of people, all right, I can give you that data from projects that have been previously done or research that has been previously done in your area and has been in one way provided as public data. So I can use this public data and integrate it into my project and make it private data. As easy as that. It's like you don't have to go there. But for somebody looking for these people, indeed, by the end of the day, if they start searching for these people, they're going to find them in that locality where you pick this data from. Are we breaking the rules of data privacy by how easy it is for me to sit in the house today and come up with an entire communication plan just by sitting behind my computer?
I think there too is, I'll give you feedback on this. One, there's the element of ethics. If you're not ethical, then you'll definitely do it. We have ethics in monitoring and evaluation for those people who collect data.
That's it.
That is one. Secondly, if you look at information from AI, ideally it's gathered from reports. So the question is, while these people are sharing information to the reports, did they give consent to it? If they give, then that is good for that person's report. However, for your report, you don't have consent.
That's it.
So for me, it just brings down to your ethics as a person. Is there a bridge in data protection? There is a bridge in that. And ideally now, that's why I'm now trying to say, like the Data Protection Act. One of the things that we can do is to now see how we are going to incorporate things on AI to it so that we're able to protect that element. Because things like photos, there's a time in development world, we had issues of taking photos of children. And a law was brought up into that. I just can't take a photo of a child, even if the mother is there. I can't. Especially if it's going to intrude this child probably, or to portray the child in a way that is negative.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This is somebody who is growing, you see. So those laws came into place. The ethics, the ethical part of it. So that is something that we can also embrace in our Data Protection Act and see how we incorporate AI.
That's it.
Will the report, for example, in this case, work? If you are sure, I think when you're doing a research as a person or a research that I've previously done, we have Ethics Bureau in Kenya. We have NACOSTI that are supposed to just guard. So that means that if you're doing a research and you go to you're able to clear with Ethics Bureau, you're able to clear with NACOSTI. That means then at one point also these people did not do their jobs well, because you have to clear with them for you to go to do data collection. So I think it's also like the system we're having into place. How are we going to bring AI into them to just, or how are we looking at AI into them to just be able to gag out these issues that are coming in, especially with the data protection. And now the funny part with data protection is that even writing your name somewhere, you've shared your data. So how are we also gagging all that?
That's it.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, how are you going to embrace AI to be able to cut it off here and just gag it? If you're to get information from AI and everything, you have to acknowledge it.
That's it.
In research, educational research and science research, I know, and based on experience, it's being gagged. You'll have to give reference. But now, if you want to portray it as your own, it means you as a person, you're compromising on your ethics and you already have a problem.
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty much. Gotta talk to you about this as well. A majority of the projects that are essentially attracting donor funding into this country, if you look at how the communication is done around them, it's a very robust communication. It's data-driven, it's got facts that have been turned into graphs and figures, and that's exactly what attracts donor funding in this country. That whatever information that I give you, I need to see all these graphs, I need to see these figures, I need to see facts. And then again, it's gotta be fast, because a lot of organizations in this country and even our government is competing with a lot of other governments to attract this funding into the country. The question around that area then is that AI has made it easy for us to communicate in that direction. That whatever it is that you have on the ground, all these stories that you're collecting from all these people, you can easily break them down into numbers, facts, and figures very, very fast for any other person to look at them and say, well, we need to go towards this direction. Are we losing the true value of storytelling for advocacy communication, where I need to see numbers, I do not need to hear the story, but I'm just going to look at a graph. But the most important part of your communication is not the testimonials. It's just going to be about, let me go to your analysis. This one probably has got 60%, this one has got 40%. We're going to go with the one that has got 60%. We're going to go with the one that has got 80%. That AI has driven us towards that direction. That previously, before AI, that testimonials, watching videos, looking at case scenarios, that would have been that initially used to be the better way of communicating, especially when you're trying to advocate for something. But now it doesn't exist anymore. AI slashed that out. It's like, this is all trash. It's a lot of jargon. Please focus on what is important: numbers, graphs, and figures.
I beg to differ with you on that, based on experience and what I'm also currently doing.
Yes.
Ideally, the case studies come in handy. The process, I think donor funding, people tend to think, or the fallacy around it is that you're sending a proposal, you get the money.
Yes.
It's not the process. There's a lot that go towards it. And if I'm to come up with a proposal today as an organization, one, I will need the monitoring and evaluation person. This person will help me with data, because their work is to just follow up with projects, see what was set to achieve. Has it achieved? Yes or no? That is one person I'll need. I will need the project management team, the project manager. This person has to give me, if I'm doing a proposal based on, for example, on agroecology, they'll have to tell me what are some of the activities that we will do in that project.
Yes.
Communications comes in. One, who's going to design the pitch? It is communication, just the graphics and everything. That is one.
Yes.
Secondly, and this is something at one point, my boss would make fun of, that sometimes the numbers in M&D are not working for me. So what comes in? The testimonials and the case studies. That is what helps us. So for me, I'll say all these work to one. Does AI in a way help? It has come to help, especially when somebody's trying to get the data part of it. And if it's a new project that you've never worked on it, it will help. But if it's a repeat donor, then I don't think there's a way AI is going to help with that, because they want to see based on evidence what you've done before. In this case, that is why right now one of the big things people will talk about, and if you don't understand it, you'll continuously hear, oh, communications for development, impact communication.
Yes.
So what does it entail? Now that is where it comes into, and it comes in handy. Donor communication. There's something I know the donor wants to hear. Do we have negative stories? Sometimes things don't go the way we want them. But we know this is what the donor wants to hear. How do we go about it? That is where in a situation where you'll find that you have to redo. Or probably there's a time is just, for example, the other time we were planting trees and we're helping community come up with a tree nursery. Then I think there was issues, the drought came in. So the tree nurseries all of a sudden are not there. What do? You can't go tell the donor, oh, we did it, but it's not there. What do you do in that case? That is where communications come in. Are we going to now take, for example, are we going to talk with the project manager? We have to redo, because you'll have to look for a budget to redo it again. So that is where the project management person comes in handy. And in this case, now, with communication, one of the key things is timeliness, especially in the donor world, the timeliness. If you know Kitui has this challenge, you are implementing this project in Kitui, you need to make sure you're there before the challenge comes in. Or you are trying to say, this is what we have, these are the challenges we had, and now this is the impact. It wasn't 100% successful. However, we were able to get 50% or 60%. So you are allowed to report on what really happens. You had this challenge, it came in unexpected, you have no control. So what do? You can't lie. Because the donors don't just sit down and wait for information. We have donor visits. So, for example, in my scenario, one of the key things we do, when there is a donor visit, we plan for communication towards it. Yes. We'll take you to this place, 1, 2, 3 places. They will want to see, oh, there's this success story that you had shared. I would want to see it. Assuming it's not there, what do? So that is one, it makes it very hard to fake things. And there's no way AI is going to help you in that. There's no way. So one thing that we've come to learn, even when you're doing the proposals, being honest comes in handy, and it really saves you so much. It's not just that AI will do it for you.
Yes.
Yes.
So are you saying that this impact living, that I would say the tangible stories are still very, very important in advocacy communication? And if you're saying that that is important, then, and you're saying that AI is also very, very important in this communication that we're doing about this project that we're using to advocate for funding, what is the best integration in this storytelling for advocacy? Because AI is also important. Because that page that's got the data, that has got the analysis, is also very beautiful to the donor. So we're supposed to integrate it so that our reports still carry the authentic story of a particular community of our country.
For me, one thing I've come to learn, especially while working with AI, it comes in handy when it comes to behavior change communication. Yes. Especially you're trying to change a practice from A to B. It's not easy to communicate that to the communities. So at one point you find that probably your donor funding that you have is not enough to come up with the entire demo farm. How are you going to do this? Sometimes we work with lead farmers. Yes, it will work. But remember, there's the element of human resource. So you don't have somebody who is going to be continuously at that place to do from first step to the other step with the communities. So that is where AI comes in. I'm showing you this is the first step on how you're doing this process. For example, with composting, when you're trying to come up with the compost, I will simply do with AI, it will help me show you the steps in coming up with the compost manure. And that is in the event somebody is not there to come to the field every single day to follow up with you. It's going to come in handy. Secondly, there's the element of, and this has been a challenge of AI that has been said, and probably with Kenya trying to be the lead in it, we can look into it. How many AI platforms have the accent of Africa, leave alone Kenya, the African accent? How many of them? You just switch on the voice and you can tell this is an African accent. A few, or probably none.
Or even probably none.
Yes.
It's one, because I've met a couple of projects that are really trying to train AI of the local accent, the local terms, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that is where we can improve the AI to help us help these people more.
Yes.
Because sometimes they'll tell you, they'll just call, Hilda, mtu anameza maneno, I'm not able to get it. You see, that is a challenge, but how do I address that challenge? So one thing I've come to learn is I'll do the voiceover myself. I will use AI to help me generate the images of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, up to the last step. But now when it comes to the voicing, I will do it myself. Has it made my work easier? Yes, it has made it in terms of generating the images. But now the voicing is my voice. This is mainly to help these people understand. Mm-hmm. So you see, that is one way of making it. When it comes to the art of storytelling, I think the art of storytelling will never lose the value, according to me, because it's easier saying, my name is Hilda. I'll tell you, born in Maseno, raised in this place. Which one will you intrigue you? You'll want to hear more. Who is this person before they introduce them, right? So for me, the art of storytelling will always bring the anxiety or the anxious, the need to know more. And that is what we're looking out for in donor communication. We want the donor to listen. And that is why the testimonials I don't think they will ever fade away, honestly, because the donor is also aware there is AI. So they also need to want to know how truthful is this?
That's it.
Is this just for the sake? We even have a WhatsApp group where we have the donors with us. And not because they are doubting you or something, but we want them to see the authenticity so that the AI element, it's no longer there.
Pretty much. Yes. I want us to clear like this, and this one I'm going to go directly to my script this morning. Now, like looking ahead, major global institutions, including the World Bank and the UN agencies, argue that the next phase of development will be defined by how well technology, trust, and communication align. I mean, from your perspective, what is the single biggest mistake that Kenyan organizations make as they rush to adopt AI without properly aligning themselves to these three areas? 2 minutes, Hilda.
That is trust, technology, and?
That is on, they're saying here that it has to align with technology, trust, and communication. Those are the three things that have to go together.
Yeah.
Now, in adopting AI, what do you think is the biggest mistake that majority of Kenyan organizations are making when they're adopting this AI without really thinking of these three?
I'll say communication.
Communication.
Yes. Because when these technologies, different technologies comes in, people tend to assume everybody knows. That is one mistake. Not everybody knows. If you look at, for example, there's this matrix that talks about how people are adopting technology.
Yes.
Or even probably let's just work with Kenyan population, millennials, baby boomers, Gen Z, Alpha. The way we all adopt technology is different.
That's it.
And still, it brings me back to the women. Women take time to adopt something. They're always protective of. Even, for example, if I'm getting married tomorrow, my mom will take her time to really accept that I'm gone. You see, so one is communication. You need to communicate to people that this is what is going to happen, this is the impact, and this is how we are working it out. It's just the same case when you're introducing a new system in an organization. There are people who will always oppose to it. And it also brings in to organizations, how are we dealing with change management? Because not everyone accepts change, and not everyone is willing to even go into the process. There are people who will automatically reject it. How are we handling change management? That is a question that organization needs to do it. And all this, for you to handle all this, what is the key part? Communication. You may trust the technology and knowing that this one is from Simba.
Yes.
We trust Simba, we know he does a good job and everything. Now, cascading it down to probably just your employees, leave alone the communities, just employees. It takes time. Secondly, the other elements that contribute. Now when we're going down to the community levels, what are their poverty levels? Because someone will not prioritize a phone over food in the table for the children. So if you're trying to bring in technology, you're also looking at what are other elements around this community that can probably make them not embrace this change that you're bringing in the technology. I will not prioritize a phone over food. That is one.
That's true.
Secondly, probably the internet penetration. If you travel to the really remote parts of Kenya, Safaricom, Airtel, they've tried doing a good job with internet and everything, but it's still not there. So why should I have a phone and I'm not able to use it? That is another thing. We'll also look at literacy levels. How literate are these people? We've really struggled with promoting digital programs in the rural areas. And at one point, we had to even bring in the element of USSD code.
Yes.
Because most of them have the Kaduda. They don't have a smartphone. So you are embracing them trying to get market prices overall. They don't have it. So it even made us look at USSD code and introduce it at one point. So you really need to look at the elements of all this person that are going to affect this person adopting. And one is communication. How are you going to communicate it to them? If I don't understand, I will not adopt it.
That's it.
Yes.
Pretty much. So a lot then under development communication and advocacy in the continent in general. this morning in conversation right there with Felicia. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Take our line to the time that she joined us this morning at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. If I didn't get to read part of your contribution this morning, you do know exactly what we do. We're going to follow up with our feed online and then get to share your comments and contributions directly to our guest this morning. All right, that's it this morning. I'll step out of the studio. I'll see you tomorrow for another conversation again in the economy. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Good morning and goodbye.